This is from a Jennifer Lee Chan article at NBCSports.com/Bay Area. And it's a Kyle Shanahan quote. Can you read it? Or do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, read it.
This is what Kyle Shanahan said about Trey Lance. And the point of this article is Trey hasn't been playing, and Kyle says it's more a reflection of Kyle than it is about Trey. So here's the quote. What's been hard on me that I didn't realize is when you do bring in a different quarterback who gets a different set of plays, it's almost the first play that I've been seeing of a new defense. You see what fronts and coverages they're doing, but they do it completely. But they are doing it completely to plan as a threat of the runner at that position. I don't know what to anticipate with it. So then I've got to stay in it for a while to get a feel for it. And then you go back, and that feels kind of off for the last guy. So it kind of hurts my rhythm a little bit of understanding what a defense is getting. That's personally, as the year has gone on, what I've gotten a little more away from, because I like to get a feel for what the defense is doing. So he's saying he switches quarterbacks, the defense does something different, and now it takes him a play or a series to adjust to what the defense is doing, because the defense is adjusting to his new quarterback.
I think it goes back to the game against Arizona. And I was thinking about this when I was walking after you sent me that little excerpt a lot earlier today. And Kyle Shanahan, if you saw, I Instagrammed it and tweeted it out. I was just watching the press conference after the last game against Vikings, and there was a moment when he ran down the sideline, and on television it looked like he was going to call a timeout. And they asked him what he was doing, because they ended up not calling a timeout. And he was saying, old school Kyle Shanahan swag, I was alerting the referee to let him know we were running a double move and the corner was gonna pass interference. PI was inevitable. It actually turned out that I don't think the corner bit. So it shows you, just because you're cocky doesn't mean it always works. I think that's the play that Debo turned into Darrelle Revis and made an incredible play. Because Jimmy, I'm going to put that one on Jimmy. Like, bro, the look didn't actually work out. Bite the ball. But Kyle's the star of this team. When they are rolling, he is in control. He is the chess master. The Queen's Gambit, he's the chick, right? He's, Bobby Fischer. Like, he is really, I'm trying to think in the NFL now, like, LaFleur, like Rodgers is kind of in control. McVay's kind of lost control of his offense. Andy has given a lot to Patrick, I think, in the way they've played. They've kind of met in the middle. And Patrick became such a star and so good that you can kind of see him. But Kyle truly, and he hasn't had that level of Mahomes yet. We'll see if Trey ever gets there. He's in full control. And I think with Trey Lance, he knows when he studies his opponent with his offense exactly what he's going to get. So like when he mentioned that, because he's seen this guy against a similar look, I'm sure, that this guy will bite and grab. He has it in his mind. He's like, when it comes to this offense, he truly is a genius. When I say this offense, I mean his Shanahan family run scheme to all the boot play action stuff. He knows it like the back of his head, and he knows what they're going to do. I think that Trey Lance experience, because I was walking today, I bet Kyle did not feel comfortable asking things that Trey, even if he said he felt comfortable, that Kyle didn't feel he actually felt comfortable doing. So he gave him a very rudimentary kind of running, that offense, right? Was a lot of just, felt very just, I don't even know the right word to use, but it was kind of basic. And with Jimmy, they just run all Kyle shit. And I don't think Kyle feels he's ready to do that. So for Trey to play, that he doesn't, and this gets back to, like, there's no developing going on in the season. Like, they're not working on developing anything with Trey, because that is not the way the NFL works. When the season starts, the coordinators, and that's what it turns out, for this team, Kyle is, like, he's the play caller, so he's coordinating against the opponent. I think a lot of times, like, when I worked in the NFL, or even in college, once you get in the season, your coordinators are so dead set on the game. Well, your head coach, can do, I remember at Fresno State, Pat Hill could do some extra shit with some of the younger guys because he has coordinators do that. Kyle can't just do extra shit with the younger guys. He's calling the goddamn game, and then all week going over the plays in practice. Like, he can't just roam once certain parts of practice go. So he is admitting that he can't, for them to win right now, he can't fuck with Trey. And I've said this from the beginning, that he is not going to be in the development mode because coaches are like that. They do not think like that, especially coordinating coaches. It's why McVay is obsessed with getting Von Miller, with getting Matt Stafford. No fucking development. They're not in developing. They're not into that because they're trying to win. And it's a big off-season project. I'm cool with it as long as you're going to make the playoffs. And right now they're headed there. You're going to make the playoffs. I can live with you basically just doing nothing with them this year because this is your decision. And you clearly haven't just done anything with Trey. Now, in meetings and talking with him, I don't mean like they have no interaction, but just in terms of getting him ready to play in big-time games, like they're not really doing it. Can we just admit that they've kind of just scrapped him?
Yeah. And this is why, right? Here's another example. Kyle was coach number 5,076,000 to try and make a 2-quarterback system work. No one's really pulled it off yet and won football games, right?
And I give him credit that last preseason game. He legitimately tried some kind of outside of the box stuff, right? For
maybe
the
some
NFL.
Taysom. Maybe that one's kind of worked, but
I mean, Kyle was running series, and then he'd go back.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
But I think in some ways the series thing, it's weird because
I think that's what he's talking about more than just a play for Trey. Right?
Yeah. Well, I've heard it discussed from a quarterback's perspective before. I had a college coach tell me this year. The problem with trying 2 quarterbacks in the same game is that so much of what happens in a game is a result of what happened earlier in a game.
Yeah.
And so if your quarterback gets the first 2 series, if John gets the first 2 series, and then Guy gets the next 2 series, well, when John comes back into the game, he hasn't seen what the defense has done on the last 2 series. So, yeah, we might be in the beginning of the third quarter now, but John hasn't seen anything the defense has adjusted to since the first quarter. And that it makes it really hard on your quarterbacks because everything they do is a result of taking in information, adjusting, taking in information. And now you kind of stunt both guys in the game because they don't get the full picture. I think part of what Kyle is saying, and this is where we talk about when his offense is hitting, there's just such a rhythm to it, is that not only does it take him out of rhythm, but what he does on drive 5 is a result of what the defense did on drive 4, which is a result of what Kyle did on drive 3, which is a result of what the defense did on drive 2, which is a result of what Kyle did on drive 1, right? It all kind of works in a rhythm. His offense really, when he's got it going, it really fits together really well.
Yeah.
Because
it's a puzzle that he's.
But it's about knowing what they're going to do and how to exploit it. Well, you throw Trey in, and again, it just goes to show how hard it is, even for a guy who, regardless of what you think of Kyle, whether his win-loss record is good enough, whatever, what can't be denied from an offensive play calling perspective, he's an elite coach.
But
and even for him, he's saying, I underestimated how hard this was going to be to do both things.
We have to acknowledge, and he's admitting it, and we've all known this, and, a lot of people were like, I don't know why, back when we played the game and we talked a lot about it, the good and the bad. It is a major, major off-season project to get. And ultimately, these reports that Jimmy's going to get, all their chips are on Trey. They have to figure it out, but it's going to be difficult. They make the playoffs this year. Their team might be better next year, but the quarterback situation is going to be, because they're going to have to do so many things, right? Orchestrate the offense around the kid, work on his mechanics, work on his understanding of football, and then live through games. So it's going to be a big undertaking. It really is, which is cool, but he ain't in it to lose. So, and that's why I think he wanted to wring Jimmy's neck, because he's like, I didn't work this hard to fucking dig us out of this hole, and you throw the ball. And Kyle, watching his press
Trey
conference,
can't save us.
And Trey can't save us. Yeah, I have no backup plan, Jimmy. You know the guy that I traded all these picks for? And you know this too, he ain't close to ready.
No.
And this is why, going back, not to toot our own horn, our initial reaction to everything we saw with Trey was, it was just such a raw, it wasn't a sustainable thing. And in fairness, he had no clue what was going on. And I was thinking about today when I was walking after you sent me that thing of going back to Matt Ryan and the complexity of this, how intense this offense is, and then factoring in how intense the head coach is. Because you and I have talked about Lincoln Riley. I think a lot of people at USC anytime you say younger offensive coach, like, oh, Sean McVay, fun-loving, gunning it. Cliff Kingsbury, good-looking, taking down tens, throwing it. Lincoln Riley is, I think, closer to Saban's personality than people realize. He is kind of an old-school, younger stiff. Now, because he's younger, he doesn't feel as stiff as maybe an older guy like a Brian Kelly or a Belichick or a Saban. But he is closer to their vein than he is to Sean McVay's personality. And the difference of Sean McVay and Kyle, like, Sean McVay's not really screaming at people. Like, it's pretty clear. You just watch him. Kyle fucking loses his shit. Kyle is wound tight. Like, there is a reason.
I'll tell you, watching McVay looked like he was pretty tight the other day watching somebody.
But he can't scream at Matt, right?
Did he scream at Goff?
I mean, he could, but I'm just saying, like, Kyle will scream at probably anyone except Trent, right? I mean, you don't really need to scream at Bosa. But, like, there's not, like, anyone Kyle's intimidated by coaching him hard. And when it comes to his offense, we saw it with Ayuk. That is not, and you've been on this, like, you got to acknowledge it worked. That is not a tactic that I would say most coaches under 50 that are offensive coaches would use. Correct? On Ayuk?
No.
That was a very, very, like,
maybe if you were a freshman in college, maybe.
I'm talking in the pros.
Yeah, but I'm saying even in college, you don't really, because guys can just hop in the portal. You got to be careful.
That was an old school move by a 42-year-old that I thought was crazy. And listen, it's not my tactic, but again, I come from kind of open-minded LA, football liberals in Pat Hill and Andy Reid. They're either like you're suspended or you're playing. They don't do that. And it goes back to Kyle's dad, Mike. Like, he's just a hard ass. And Kyle's a hard ass. And I think this Trey thing, maybe I haven't even come to, like, that was an eye-opening comment. Even though we were all kind of thinking it, definitely you and I were back in that Arizona game. You agree it is going to be an undertaking this offseason, just with him and Trey. Like, it is
Some people didn't like when you called it a project, but it's clearly a project. Now, project doesn't mean, projects have due dates.
Lamar was a project. Josh Allen was a project.
Playing quarterback in the NFL for most guys it's a project.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Most players are somewhat of projects. Like, not everyone's like Justin Jefferson just hit the ground. I'm an All-Pro immediately, right? I mean, it's just some guy you need to keep improving and getting better. Like, everyone, adapts at quicker speeds. But the difference, though, and this goes back to, like, obviously quarterback is much more nuanced. There's just so much more going on than playing wide receiver or playing linebacker. But we're bringing up, like, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, or Trent Williams, any player at any position, Khalil Mack. This kid just hasn't played. He just hasn't played very much. He's going to go 2 years, basically, with a half of football against Seattle, if Jimmy stays healthy, the start against Arizona, and the game against New Mexico Southern West East 2 years ago. Like, those are the two games he's had 2 starts in 24 months. That's pretty crazy.
It is. And was the 3rd pick.
And then he's going to come to a team potentially off, even if they lose in the first round, like, it's not like the Niners are going to be like, yeah, we're not going to try to make the playoffs this year because they're not going to have any picks. They're going to be like, fuck, we're all in.
Yep. I know.
Jimmy survive?
He might.
I don't think Kyle could deal with him.
Well, to me, the way he survives is if Kyle it's okay. No is the answer. Unless Kyle thinks, like, Trey is not, if he thinks they made a mistake. Otherwise, he's got to play. He's got to go to Trey.
Yeah.
He has to. Niners are favored by 3, Brady says. So there is a line on that game now, or has been. I just missed it.
You'd have to pay me to bet on that game. Could you take the Niners -3 at Seattle? I don't care if they're winless.